the news that attorney Michael Avenatti had been suggesting all week long that he was going to provide to the Senate Judiciary Committee and to the media is of this third accuser accusing Supreme Court nominee Brett Kavanaugh of explosive instances of sexual misconduct, essentially. And I'm going to read just from her affidavit, her sworn affidavit that she has provided to Mr. Avenatti and Mr. Avenatti has provided to the press. In one of those paragraphs of her affidavit, this is, and what I'm reading from here is, I guess, what would be considered the least volatile or least explosive of the allegations. But just again, to point out why there were so many people who were concerned that Mr. Kavanaugh would be given a lifetime appointment to the Supreme Court and would have the power and the decision-making over the lives of some 400 million Americans, including women, obviously. So in one of the paragraphs, she states this: following the first introduction, I attended well over 10 house parties in the Washington, D.C. area during the years 1981 to 1983, where Mark Judge is the man who is Brett Kavanaugh's friend, and Brett Kavanaugh were present. These parties were a common occurrence in the area. On numerous occasions at these parties, I witnessed Mark Judge and Brett Kavanaugh drink excessively and engage in highly inappropriate conduct, including being overly aggressive with girls, not taking no for an answer. This conduct included the fondling and grabbing of girls without their consent. I observed Brett Kavanaugh drink excessively at many of these parties and engage in abusive and physically aggressive behavior towards girls, including pressing girls against him without their consent, grinding against girls, and attempting to remove or shift girls' clothing to expose private body parts. I often witnessed Brett Kavanaugh speak in a demeaning manner about girls in general, as well as specific girls by name. I also witnessed Brett Kavanaugh behave as a mean drunk on many occasions at these parties. That is just the seventh paragraph.
Yeah.
It goes on.
Sorry, just to interject, I mean, part of the reason why those, as you pointed out, are sort of the least explosive allegations, but part of the reason why they're still important is because they directly contradict what Brett Kavanaugh said in his Fox News interview, right, and also what his friend Mark Judge says, yes, who sort of dismissed their relationship and said, right, that he'd never really seen, Brett Kavanaugh at these sort of parties behaving in this sort of way. And so this directly contradicts what both of those men say.
And that's why I read that first, because I sort of think that we have him on the record, Julie, in that Fox News interview, suggesting that he's essentially a choir boy, that he goes to, he went to church and he hung out with his parents. Mm-hmm. Did you agree with Ricky Kleeman's take that this was an ill-advised interview?
Absolutely. I agree with her when we say that as an attorney, you tell your client not to say a word because anything you say is going to be used against you. And even those things you say that you think are innocent or going to make you be portrayed as someone, as you described as the choir boy, are going to come back to haunt you because now, A, we have the ability to cross-examine you on things you said before, and now we have other witnesses that are specifically contradicting things that he said in that Fox News interview in and of itself. And so, I think it's incredibly going to be even more difficult for him, certainly if you have some good cross-examiners in there.
So you've got, all right, so Julie, stand by. Nancy, please stand by. I hope you can, because joining us on the phone right now is criminal defense attorney Vinu Varghese. He's also a former prosecutor. All right, Mr. Prosecutor, you're receiving this, you're representing, or you're looking at this information, you're looking at this affidavit, and now you're not as a prosecutor, you're as a criminal defense attorney, you've got to represent Mr. Kavanaugh. What's your take?
I think first, the timing is suspect, and I think you have to look at that, right? I mean, these hearings have been going on for a while, and this isn't the first time that Judge Kavanaugh has been before the Senate. He was up for the confirmation process for the D.C. Circuit. So you have to look at that from that perspective. That being said, because of the amount of because now the number of accusations, there are 3 separate accusers, and because of the seriousness of this particular allegation, I think it warrants an investigation and a delay in the process for this to be fully vetted. I think people have to still respect Kavanaugh and say, look, the guy has to be presumed innocent. He must be. That's the bedrock of our institution. All these other things, at this point, the timing, the fact that you're talking about stuff from 35 plus years ago, I think all of that weighs into the total equation. But at this point, all of this merits, it has to merit investigation because we are talking about